I'm so excited.
Okay.
I'm so excited.
Good luck.
Uh,
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Good
okay.
luck, Lydia.
Yes. Good luck,
Lydia,
Lydia.
Thank you. Good to see everybody.
I hope you'll come back
Wait.
on the call once you put the diapers on the kids and they go to sleep. But I'm recording from now because I want you to hear from what Rickey says. I was hoping there would be a dialogue, but I think Rickey will have some very interesting response to your effort. So
Well, I look forward to the recording. Thank you for that. And
yeah,
I'm sorry, I just it was just unexpected.
No, no apologies needed. Not at all.
All
Cool.
right, y'all have a good rest of your night. We'll talk again soon.
all
I
right,
hope so. Good.
great. And we have a new person here who just walked in after.
Yeah, hi, Charlotte here. Hey, Charlotte Dennett.
Hi, Charlotte.
Braving the snow. The roads are bad.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, anyway, she's
Oh,
here.
Charlotte is there with Robin. I was looking for Charlotte's name, but she's there
Yeah.
with you, Robin. Great.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Have you already, done the tribute to Sandy? Has that already
yes,
been? Yeah.
yes, we have. And maybe at the end we can come back to it. But Ricky, so uh,
Ah,
I just feel that pairing the two of you together, that you know that Lydia's issues as a woman, as a black woman, are so relevant to your economy of our own and screwnomics. And so,
yes,
could you
yes,
make those connections? Because some of the people here may not know
sure.
your work.
Right. Well, I guess I'll start out by just saying that we had a issues committee meeting for Wilpf's Women, Money, and Democracy this last Saturday, and one of the issues that Lydia is interested in that I was hoping to talk with her about is that issue of housing, which it's a national issue for sure, but Vermont unfortunately seems to be leading the way, and uh, the weather's been so cold and housing is so expensive. Even here in Montpelier, I guess there's always an extra demand because the legislature is in session, but rooms to let even are going for, $1,200 a month for a room. I'm talking about a bed with a lamp. Terrible. So a tenants organization, which Lydia has talked about, seems like a really important movement to begin gathering people together. And, in this nutty um, national scene, I don't want to give it a lot of space, but you all know what I'm talking about. It's such lunacy. We're all chewing our nails and don't know what to expect next. But it's clear that local action, local issues, local mutual aid really is where it's at, where we really need to focus and where we can focus, we can make a big difference. So um, I guess connection for those of you who don't know my book, Screwnomics, that is a word I had to invent because I I saw this all around me, but I never heard it named. And it is the economic theory that women should always work for less or even better for free. And so it's a book about that came from years of study, beginning the hard way in the welfare office. I was a single mom, a divorcing mom in Michigan at the time. And I had a job, fortunately for me, But I had thought, well, I'm working full time. I'll be able to support myself and my kids. I'm even getting child support, which at the time I think I had 3 kids. I still have them, 3 kids, and I was getting, I think it was $30 a month or something, $30 a week, $30 a month. I don't remember anymore, but it was a shockingly low amount because my ex had a really good lawyer. And I found myself, my budget just wouldn't add up no matter how hard I tried. I felt like a failure. I was ashamed. My mother, who was a new Republican, a new Reagan Republican, had a license plate on her car that said the state motto was Michigan, Water Wonderland. And her new license plate said Michigan, Welfare Wonderland, because our county was close to Chicago, and we had a number of Chicago African Americans who had moved to the area, and the accusation was that they were moving there to profit from Michigan's easy welfare rules. Well, I can tell you personally that they weren't easy rules at all. And I went to the office in my work clothes. I had a suit on, I had earrings, I had my hair all done up. And I entered the room and I was shocked at this room full of, it's going to make me cry to think about it, these really sad looking women, much more poorly dressed than I was, surrounded by little kids who, there were just a lot of them. And here I was, the one white girl in the room. And the welfare workers saw me, seemed delighted to see me, and ushered me right in for an appointment where these other women had been waiting forever. And I won't forget that experience. And in a way, it kind of sparked my my career from that point on. At the time, I was working in Michigan as a writer, and I was working in design in what do you call it? Advertising, promotion, publications, and that sort of thing. And I moved to Vermont, and became a promotion and publication person for community action in central Vermont. We published a statewide Vermont paper on poverty. And so I learned a great deal about poverty and the politics of poverty, which I knew nothing about. And I worked at that for years. So what can I say about that? I could go on and on about that work, which continues, which is really important, and which is probably in trouble right now. I haven't had a chance to check in with friends at the Community Action Network, but maybe some of you know. We've been hearing about federal funds and state funds being frozen. I know that Community Action relies on those funds. So I don't know what their state is. I know that my daughter is now a director of a domestic violence agency here in central Vermont called Circle. And we tried to get together with her this weekend, and she said, I'm having a pajama day. I'm sorry. I'll let you know after we talk to Washington on Monday. Yesterday, they were due to be on a phone call with Washington to see whether they're going to be funded or not. But they're definitely, I expect, definitely on the hit list because, as you know, this current administration isn't exactly gung-ho on women, are they? So, and gosh, I'm getting all upset just talking about this. I don't know. So what can I say about screwnomics. It won an award as a really good women's feminist guide to economics. It's got cartoons. It's intended to be funny, a little snarky, um, and I hope understandable. But the truth is, economics is complicated because it's intentionally so. And you know what? Women and most men, and certainly African Americans, had nothing to do with writing the rules for this economy. And it shows. It's systemic and it persists. And I fear it's taken a hairpin turn in the wrong direction. Precisely, though, the thing that should hearten us is that it is precisely because we have been making progress, we have been making a difference, and we will, and we can, and we must, because this path we're on now for our families, for our planet, is lunacy. And we'll see what happens. The only thing that comforts me, aside from the progress we've already made, is the fact that these bros, these billionaire bros, are bullies and not all that competent. They are cruel, though. They are very cruel. And, you know, this current constitutional crisis, I think that's a phrase we should stop working because nobody's hearing it anymore. Constitutional crisis about the three branches of government and the conflict between the executive state and the congressional state, which is just kind of rolled over, or at least the Republicans have rolled over, and not blocking the executive branch. And now the court is bucking back, but we're noting today that, gee, it doesn't seem like the executive branch is paying much attention to those court orders. And of the three branches, which one has a military? Only one. Only one. And so that cruelty is scary, but it's got to be resisted, and we have to call it what it is. It's not a constitutional crisis. It's a coup. It's illegal. It's a coup.
It's a fascist coup.
It's a fascist coup. Yes, exactly. That's the word. And it's terribly distressing, but it's the truth. In the same way that you know, feminists like to say the political is personal. Lydia, I hope, will say that because it's certainly very personal for her and for the BIPOC people in her community in South Burlington, in the state. In the same way, the economic is personal. And so when I was doing research for screwnomics, having worked in the realm of the politics of economics, I never really thought about economics, that big scary word, as a field I could think about, or I could study, or I could concern myself about. It just seemed, you know, above all of my interests, all of my concerns, when in fact it is very important that we connect all the dots, all of the things that connect the macroeconomic, the big economic world where the global economy is happening, and the microeconomy on Main Street that we all live with. We were going to, when I say we, I mean, when I was doing screwnomics research, I've discovered all these wonderful women that I hadn't heard about before who had wonderful ideas, and I wanted to help them become famous. And so I proposed that we form a kind of alliance, and we created a feminist organization that Wilpf has been very supportive of. Thank you very much. Called An Economy of Our Own. And it features educational conversations among women who know what they're talking about and who have very different ideas about the economy. You can find all of those recorded resources on our webpage. I put a link in the chat. So this month, we were hoping to host a, we called it a fireside chat with a lovely expert from the Roosevelt Institute about tariffs and trade, which is part of that macroeconomic world, and connecting the dots to our jobs and our pocketbooks, our wallets, because there are definite connections, which is why it's important that we understand how these things are connected and be able to make cogent arguments about the way it's not working for most of us now and how it can work better. It's a big job ahead of us, but it's something that we really need to do. We weren't able to do it because for reasons Stephanie at Roosevelt Institute said she was just swamped, and they're a much larger, more influential educational nonprofit than we are. And, you know, at the back of all of our minds is, and I hope Wilf is worried about this too, because it only makes sense to be worried these days about the nonprofit status of organizations that I know is on the list of who's that wonderful guy who heads OMB now, who was with the Heritage Institute, OMB Vaught, Roger Vaught, wonderful guy. Yeah.
You
Good
wrote
for-
Project 2025.
Yes, exactly. Yes, he did.
Mhm.
All right. So anyway,
I have a few
we
links.
weren't able to do it, but you know, as we were thinking about it, we thought, you know, everyone is so straight out right now, so worried, thinking about so many different things because they've been so successful at just spewing all of this pixie dust, my husband calls it, to kind of distract us from, dear God, what they're really doing with the Treasury office with all those, with that fellow who was never elected. What is his name?
Musk.
Yeah, that guy. um, that people probably would have been too busy to come to and listen to it anyway. And so we'll tend to what's really urgent and essential, the way Lydia is taking care of her grandchildren, because we must take care of ourselves, take care of our families, take care of our communities, and then stretch far enough to begin to support and act on behalf of that larger organizations like Wilf, like the Roosevelt Institute, like AEOO, and keep talking together.
Good. Yeah, wonderful. I think people have some response and want to add something to you. And I want to welcome people who are women who are not usually on this call, like Jean Plow. Hello, Jean. And Shelby, who is a part of National Wilf. But also to say that Jill Clark Gobb, she took an action this I think this last week in Washington. Could you tell us about it?
Are you talking about January 15th, Marco Rubio's confirmation hearing?
Yes.
So I from time to time support the Code Pink activists. There are hundreds who have come at one time or another to lobby Congress for ceasefire in Gaza over the last 15 months. Is it now 16 months?
Mm-hmm.
And So they're out there all the time, and they had a presence at the various Trump nominees confirmation hearings. And they were inviting people to come to Marco Rubio's, which of course you couldn't ask for a more committed warmonger or sanctions imposer. And so there actually was going to be four of us who had agreed to interrupt. Three of us did it because we decided the last one, a young man, that they're just being so violent that it probably wasn't a good idea for him. But and there were about 30 people in code pink shirts who uh, Michelle had made for us that say not only, like mine said hands off Nicaragua, there was one hands off Cuba, hands off Venezuela, hands off Canada, hands off Mexico, hands off Greenland. This young man wore hands off Yemen, another young woman wore hands off Iran, and I don't remember. I'm going to try to see if, oh yeah, I've got this photograph of us. There were about 30 code pink people who came to this hearing, and we had to get there at 7 a. Oh, are you seeing? You're seeing that's Robin. Are you seeing Robin and
Sandy,
oh, did you share that screen? Did somebody else share that screen?
yes, I
If
just,
you let me share the screen, I can share the screen of all of us in our pink t-shirts also if you want to
good.
see it. So
Okay,
you have to stop sharing and then
Okay.
I can try to share.
okay.
Let's see. Oh, it says sharing is not turned on. So can you allow me to share?
Let me see how I do that.
I know one easy way is to make me a co-host.
Uh-huh.
That's one thing that people do sometimes.
Okay, multiple participants. Hopefully, maybe I did it just then.
Oh yeah. Are you seeing it now?
Oh, look at that.
And that
Wonderful.
isn't everybody. That's about half of the people of our side that were there for the hearing in a hearing room that seats about 50 in the audience. And they filled up, most of the seats with staffers, just people so that we wouldn't get in, so the public wouldn't get in. But Medea Benjamin was the first one in line, and I was there right after her. So we got in, and this young man, Adnan, who works for Code Pink, interrupted after Rubio started talking about, yeah, how great we are and we're going to crack down on China. And he or something about, since 9/11. And so Adnan stood up and said, yeah, and you've been waging war constantly ever since then. And he got tackled so hard that Medea Benjamin and the Ty, who was with her, who came to Robin's house last year with to the Wing Farm last summer, along with Medea, they both got tackled. And Ty actually got arrested when he wasn't doing anything. And so then after it calmed down and resumed again, I stood up and I said my part, and I said in Spanish. Michelle of Code Pink had advised that I speak in Spanish. She wanted me to speak on behalf of Latin America. So I said in Spanish that Rubio's sanctions are killing children in Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. And amazingly, it was heard, it was recorded, and it was accurately translated and reported on NBC News, on Fox News, on AP, on Telesur in Venezuela. Somebody sent me a report from Spain. I know it was picked up in Cuba and Nicaragua, and I think in other countries. And basically, they said that their protesters interrupted Marco Rubio to protest the sanctions that he imposes on Latin America. And so that got through. And then Lucy Murphy, she's also in Wilpf in the MV. Some of you may know her. She stood up and she said in English what I had said in Spanish, but she was smart. And she's an older Black woman, and she's also very tall. And she just got up to act like she was leaving the room, so they didn't tackle her. But there are videos of me getting dragged out of there.
Really? Dragged
Yeah,
out by your what? By your hands or your feet or?
by like two people under each shoulder, each
Oh,
arm. Yeah.
well,
So,
Well,
so yeah,
bravo.
so
Yeah.
thanks.
yeah, great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. So are there other thoughts? Charlotte, of course, has something to say.
Yeah. Hi, Ricky. You know, I often wonder, I had a choice about 20 years ago which book to write. One was on the Middle East, and the other was on women with the title Purse Strings, Ties That Bind American Women, which I don't know what my life would have been done if I'd taken that path. But I just want to add something I believe strongly that these attacks on women, they happen cyclically. And the first attacks on abortion rights were in the 1840s. I didn't even realize the first anti-abortion laws was it Oklahoma, where it was one of those Western countries where they were trying to criminalize abortion according to this old law. And what I knew is that the first anti-abortion law criminalizing abortion was in Massachusetts, and it was around 1860. It was after the Civil War, and the boys were coming home from the war, and there was a concern that women were taking on jobs like at the Lowell mill factories in Lowell, and the women had, I mean, they were amazing. This is the first women's movement was at the Lowell textile mills in the 1860s. And these are women from Vermont that had been brought down to Massachusetts to work in the mills. They earned some money, they got some power, and they started to, they wrote the first women's magazine, and then they started to protest the working conditions. And then what happened? A coalition of doctors, mill owners, and religious conducted the first back to the home movement. They wanted them out of those mills because they were getting uppity. And so they talked about race suicide. Crazy that these Yankee women, they weren't making enough babies, and all these Irish were coming in. And so they criminalized it. And the second state to criminalize abortion was Vermont. So,
Really? I
yeah.
didn't know that.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. So what I'm looking at now is we're in another phase where the boys on top, you know, they're always projecting out there. They're always worried about unrest, by the way, because they're a minority, even though they have lots of money. So, and they're projecting out, and they see that there's going to be massive technological unemployment coming with AI in particular. It's going to be massive. And so I discovered in the 70s when the women's movement was strong, but it was right after the Vietnam War, the boys were starting to come home again, and a new back to the home movement was started. Phyllis Schlafly and the likes of them. And so that's what's happening now. They know that, who was it? George Gilder, who was the godson of David Rockefeller, wrote a book called Sexual Suicide, which was like the first book attack on the women's movement. And he was saying when there's unemployment, men resort to muscle and phallus. So we mustn't have men unemployed. Therefore, get the women out, get them home, get them making babies. And that's what happened. It did happen. And so that's what I see going on now. I see abortion as a working woman's issue. They're taking it away from us. They want women to be home barefoot and pregnant and out of the jobs. And every once in a while, you'll hear references, resentment from white men that they're not, you know, they don't have the jobs that they want to have. So you don't want to piss off white men. That's what's going on right now.
Wow.
And the white men are lashing out at women when, in fact, it's the upper class bros who have kept them from a living wage, from
Right.
you know,
But
yeah.
that's why Trump focused on young white men, because he
Mhm.
knew there were resentments there. So he
Mhm.
gets them to turn against us. And it's a scary
Well,
time.
well, right now I'm reading quite a bit about the Christian or the religious national um, movement, and having babies is a big part of what they're promoting. And there are those within that movement that think we made a big mistake giving women the vote. They never gave it to us. We won it over a long time. It took us all kinds of work to do it. And they think that's where they went wrong, giving us the vote. They'd like to repeal that. I remember 20 years ago thinking they think they can repeal Roe v. Wade. That's nutty. Yeah, it
Mm.
is. It is nutty, but here we are.
But what
Um,
about Biden signing an executive order, I guess, uh, affirming the Equal Rights Amendment? There was a little splash towards the end, of his administration, and then I don't know what happened. Does anybody know?
no,
It went nowhere, I think.
yeah.
Well,
Would
anyway,
not have been respected anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, I think also the press wasn't picking it up. And so someone was paying the press not to report on it.
could be.
Yeah, well, the press is still dominated by men as well. And then there are lots of blue dem men too who I don't know if I love Bernie, but and Peter's okay, but I don't know about some of them.
But I think what's also happening with women, you have the most educated generation of women that's ever been. Okay. And the young women of these days, they are not waiting for men to marry them to live their life.
Yes.
So
Right.
the anger you're seeing with young men is about control. They just can't make women do what they want anymore. Okay. And they have the power, they have the money, they have the everything, but women has the key for sex, and they really hate the fact they have to ask women for sex. Okay. And the easiest way to have women lose control over that is once you're pregnant with 3 or 4 kids, your ability to negotiate for your future is gone.
Mm.
Okay, so which is why you see the shaming of women who don't have children, the shaming of Taylor Swift, the shaming, how dare you not have children? Because I can't use that against you. Because the reality is, whenever it's come to negotiate, women's always yield for the welfare of children. Okay, that's a given. Okay, the women's are yours, the children are women always know. And I mean, women in this country are different. I come from a third world, but the third world we grow up knowing the children are yours. Men come, they go, like whatever. Some of them, whatever. If they don't come back, that's almost a bonus. But the children are yours. In this culture, I think it is what you say, but it's a more modern version of it. Okay.
Mm.
It is
Mm.
harder to roll back. Okay. Because there's a lot of women in power. There's a lot of smart women out. The young generations, I have a daughter who's 29. I know a lot of young women. Um, they are they're professional, they have their life, they went their place, they live their life. They are not waiting to be married. Yes, they would like to be married, but if they're not, they don't. So
Yes.
this is gonna be and a lot of those. I'd like to go back to your screwnomics, and I think it's very interesting. And I've not read your book, and I will be interested in reading it. So this is a culture that hates to talk about money. A huge part of money is education. Okay, like from high school, there's my son in high school took math of money. I don't think it was a required course. My daughter didn't take it. Math of money is needed for everyone. particularly women. If you look at magazine for men and women, the magazine for men has engineers and so on and so forth. Women is beauty product, beauty product, beauty product, beauty product. There is a subliminal message being passed, which make it even harder for women to go into STEM, into technology, into mathematics. So women aren't even there writing the codes we need women to write the codes of AI so that AI can present the point of view of women. So I think there's a lot of education that need to occur. Okay. And that education is also abutting against a culture that has an inherent pudor about money. People don't like to talk about, they'll talk about sex, they talk about religion, they talk about everything, but not money. Okay. So I don't know whether you can have, you'd like to talk to that point about having written a book about economics and women. How do we educate women early on about something in a culture that doesn't want to talk about that thing?
Well, we should all, let's everyone read Rickey's book, and maybe there's a version. Is there a version of it for young women that could be?
No, it's a little old at this point, and the steering committee at An Economy of Our Own have urged me to create a kind of learning circle for screwnomics, which I think would be great. We've actually experimented with that a little bit, but doing one that could be recorded and shared, and that we could have facilitators trained to talk about it. And it just, because I'm sort of volunteering to administer this organization, the bigger it grows, the more complicated it gets, the more I'm out of my league, really. And now I'm so old, I can't keep track of things. I can't juggle as many balls. I'm not as nimble. And we really need a young person to jump in and go to town with it, which would free me up to do more thinking about writing and than I am able to now. I do have.
We have Jane Henley.
You have Jane Henley
with her hand raised.
Oh, hi, Jane. Your real hand. I was looking for a yellow or the brown hand somewhere but it's your real hand. Hi, Jane.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. Hi. Yeah. Waste about screwnomics resonates with me. I'm haunted by an experience that I had a long time ago when I was just getting into the workforce, and I took a job that required, and I didn't have much of an income, and I took a job that required you to be on welfare, and so I was, and even though I have I had people behind me who could help me, I myself didn't have, I myself wasn't earning much, and I saw these poor women in the room, and they didn't look very well dressed, and I looked better dressed than they did, and I got that people seemed to be paying attention to me, and I feel like I was bumped ahead of in the line. I mean, there was a line of people. There was and I somehow didn't take that long for me, and I feel like I was getting special treatment, and it wasn't fair, and maybe slightly illegal, because I really did have, I really wasn't have completely without means. Anyways, and I thought that on how, I mean, I should have been, but somebody just said, well, you might like I might be an imposter because I didn't, because of the way that I was presenting myself. I mean, anyways, it didn't feel right, and I felt like I was getting more respect because of the,
well, it sounds
of what
like
I was wearing, and these women who were really needed it.
Yeah, it sounds like the sort of same example that Rickey was talking about earlier of being on welfare, and as a white woman being received
Yeah.
faster by the authorities when she would trying to sign up. Yeah. Any other comments from those who haven't spoken yet? Barbara, for example, so rare to see you if that's Barbara Soros. I don't know, it's just Barbara. Okay, or Jean Flo. And Jean Hopkins is here, of course, and she's been on this.
I'm very glad to be here, but I don't have a comment right now. I'm just so impressed with the analysis that Rickey is giving us, and thank you for Robin for making this happen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Well, thank you. That's very nice to hear. It was just my rant, really.
Well, whatever. I mean, I've been thinking along the same lines, but you put it into words. This is a
That's
this
good.
is a coup, and we really need to step up and do whatever we can.
Jenna, I think I remember you at when the book was first published. You had asked me a question about investing. Am I remembering that right?
I'm not sure. No, I don't know. Maybe.
It's been a while. At any rate, I at the time I rightly said, that's not my field. Economics is not finance, is not
Okay.
investing, although finance is part of economics.
Yeah.
But it's not where I focus because I haven't had that much money, I guess. But that's not really true. I have had, some institutional investments, but we have one of the members of our alliance is the organization Invest for Better, which is a very cool women's organization that it provides learning circles for which is what we've called our learning circles at an economy of our own too, because I think it's more fun to learn about economics with women, and so that's what they're doing at Invest for Better, and it's a good place to go if you're interested in learning more about, well, how can I invest my values? There's some surprising answers to that question. So we've had them, and there is one of our videos on our webpage features Janine Furpo, who wrote a book called Activate Your Money. Make your money matter if you have some.
Okay, thanks. Nancy has her hand up. Could you demute yourself? Demute, yes.
I was just going to mention a book I read a couple of years ago called All the Single Ladies. Maybe you're familiar with it. I think it was written by a woman who's a sociologist, but she kind of traced women's situations starting about when I was young. You should get married before you're 25 and all that stuff. But the different chapters cover people in different situations, like, and it also ties it in with women's rights somewhat. But so there's a chapter on women living on welfare and how awfully hard that is, and then a chapter on women who are doing quite well with their education, and then some of the conflicting feelings they might have about how they want to live their lives. It's very interesting. So I gave it to my granddaughter. I lent it to her and she liked it, so I gave it to her. Otherwise, I could tell you the author, but it's very interesting and shows you kind of the history of women from like last 70 years, at least.
Interesting.
Say the title again.
All the Single Ladies.
All the Single Ladies. Okay.
Kind of an odd title, but
which is what Danila was talking about.
Yeah.
Doing all right.
Yeah, any other thoughts there of people who want to? Shelby, do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. I hope you all know. I'm thinking all the single ladies. I'm thinking of the Beyonce song. So I hope that that's what everyone else was thinking about.
Me too. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I love that song. Um, hi, my name's Shelby. Sorry, I stepped away for a second. I had to grab dinner. I was starving, but I'm back. And I wanted to introduce myself. I am the field organizer for Wilf US. I work with a couple branches to help them increase recruitment and retention for their branches, help them establish a sense of normalcy for them, like monthly meetings, monthly events, something that's like done in repetition, and also doing a couple other things from supporting them in meetings to working on long-term plans for branches as well. A lot of it is individualistic to what a branch needs. So I've been working with Robin, who's been a treat to meet with, and think of new ways to possibly find what works for this branch. Robin and I recently were working on an evaluation form that we'd really love for you all to fill out as members to give us some feedback on activities that you might want to see us do more, potentially more conversations that you all would want to do. Honestly, I don't know if there's a change for discussion or conversations because I was absolutely invested in the conversation I've just been a part of for the past hour. Someone got arrested. This is crazy. I was listening to all of this. This has been one of the most entertaining meetings that I've been to. So I just hope that you all know that the stories you were sharing were absolutely, I mean, mouth dropped. So you all are incredible activists. I was really blown away just by some of the stories you were sharing. So you might not want to change anything there about all the awesome conversations you have. But if there's events that we can plan, particular roles that you might want to pursue or help out with, and go ahead. Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, all right. So one of the things we could transition to at this point in our conversation is the next meeting. If we're trying to be systematic, doing things every month, the trouble is next meeting is March, and the second Tuesday of March is the 11th. And for me, that's very difficult as I'm on a train to New York for the Commission on the Status of Women. And we're doing a workshop there on Friday about Beijing plus 30. Beijing, the great conference, the largest assemblage of women in the planet in history. And remembering what came out of Beijing was the Beijing Declaration. And is it still, how did we advance on it? What fell by the wayside? So different folks are going to be reporting there, and bits of my film, Peace Train to Beijing, will be shown on the 14th. So anyway, and I think that will be available. I mean, we'll probably stream it. I believe it's going to be across the street from the United Nations that this discussion takes place. But next so I hope that maybe our co-hosts of this organization, which I kind of commandeered Jill and Jean to step forward. But should we have a meeting there on that date, the second Tuesday, or wait because of all the stuff that will be coming out in the Commission on the Status of Women, that I hope everyone will tune into from the 11th to the 15th of March. Is anyone else planning to go down there to New York? It's really such an intense women from all around the world. Okay, Jill, you have your hand up.
Yes, I won't be going to the event. And I think I must have missed some messages. Maybe they went to a wrong email address about what you're talking about with Jean and I, or is this something we talked about a long time ago and I'm not remembering? But at any rate, I think I would propose that we postpone the meeting for a week. Will you be back a week later on March 18th?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that way you can tell us how it went.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And that will be the, right before, if we meet at 6 o'clock, at 8 o'clock, I have a meeting with, Women, Money and Democracy on the 18th.
Uh-huh. Well, okay, let's settle on the 18th, but maybe 6 o'clock is not the best time. Would you, because we've always met at 5 or 5:30 before, and we can do what is best. I mean, everyone wants to just chew food at this time.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I have something. Oh, yeah.
On the 18th?
Yes, I'm doing an 8-week class, actually. I'm late for that class. Right. Today was optional. But oh boy. Yeah, I can't do any other Tuesdays at 7. Are we talking about 5? I could do 5.
Okay, well, let's go back to 5. Is 5 okay with people?
Yeah.
Those of us retired can say yes. Okay, 5 p.m.
Yes.
Wilf on the 18th. Wonderful.
Oh, I have something to say.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I'm just thinking about the Commission on the Status of Women. Of course, maybe it was 5 years ago, Robin, when there was a lot of emphasis on was it called Resolution 1325? And it was calling for women to have more say in peace negotiations. And I don't know how that has advanced. There was a lot of excitement when it first happened. I think Hillary Clinton, was she behind that?
Yeah, she came.
Yeah. And then we got into a big debate because one of the things they wanted to do was have American women forces working in like Afghanistan because they could get into the homes where men could not. And they were seen as valuable. And that got into a whole debate about USAID. And I don't know if everyone agrees with me, but it's a part of the CIA. They now use the term soft power, but it's really, and I wrote about this in the Rockefeller book, it's soft side counterinsurgency. That's what it's all about. And when you hear all the talking heads about USAID, and they tend to emphasize the medical care, and which is very important. I mean, who could deny that? And food supplies. I get that, but the whole thing is a propaganda operation, so that countries in the global South, etc., are appreciative of what the U.S. is doing. And I never thought I would feel real sympathy for them because of what Trump has done. But on the other hand, I think he's making a big mistake, because who's filling in the gap? It's the Russians and the Chinese. So this is going on all over the world. There's battle, the great game, I call it. They're all battling for influence. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, but that's such an incredible network. I mean, I think we're all becoming aware of its reach, and that it is our soft power foreign policy that especially, for example, in Ukraine, it was very powerful in 2014 when at the overthrow, apparently AID was supporting so many of the newspapers there to have a pro-American perspective. And now in 2025, all those newspapers they can't go on because they're all our American supported newspapers. Amazing situation.
Well, what irritated me was, and it was given recently as an example of women being assisted in Iraq, all right, to make Iraqis feel warm and cuddly towards the American after we went and invaded their country. You know, it's just, I don't know. So I have very mixed feelings about USAID. There's some things they've done, and they started. Guess where they started? Vietnam. Kennedy actually created USAID, and they were sent into Vietnam and spied on.
How many billions a year is it? Did anyone read the recent figures? My memory is they're saying $40 billion a year going to AID, something huge like that.
I think it was more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they also call it minuscule, like 1% of the $1 trillion budget.
Yeah.
I think it's 9 billion.
Okay, I see Jane has her hand raised here.
Thanks. Yeah, I wanted to ask. I remember that there was like a Radio Free America, which would be blaring, which would be broadcast. Was being broadcast in Russia to bring American values to countries we didn't like. Do you know?
Yeah, isn't that existing? I think it is.
So it's probably part of Radio Free Europe, which is the big one. The big propaganda apparatus. I don't know about Radio Free America. But at any rate, you know, both sides do it.
Yeah. Because I remember the propaganda arm, I haven't heard about it recently. Maybe.
I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
Can I raise my hand?
Was Catherine Voss, do you want to say something?
Oh, I'll yield and then I'll come back.
Yield to who?
Oh, the person who just said, can I say something?
Not seeing a button. I apologize. I'm not seeing a button to raise my hand under my options. So
I'd love to see your face, though.
Yeah, you gotta pull your.
I just wanted to tell everybody that I came through an USAID program. That's how I met Robin. You know,
well, okay.
In the spirit of full disclosure.
But was it it was the Rotary? You mean the Rotary?
The Rotary did the equipment. The whole rest of the work was done by USAID in Port-au-Prince.
From Haiti, yes. Yeah. And so there's our Haitian connection. Right here with us. Yeah, wonderful. So we have a few minutes more if we want to start to wind up. Yeah, Max.
Yes, I came today thinking that it would be. I'm actually thinking there's so much work to do, and you know, given what's going on in Washington, and that maybe it would be best to actually meet more often, figure out how we can be effective in new ways, and be really clear about our goals and what kinds of things that we want to get involved in. I mean, there's so much is going on. I've spent the last 5 days just on, I felt like I've been in Greenland and just going through all of those issues there, which then I can refer to my climate, you know, our climate group is working on those kinds of things too. But there's so much that's going on. There's so much that is absolutely wrong. And I think I'd love to hear us talk about how we, Wilf, can be more effective in new ways. And I'd like to talk about clarity. So being clear about what our goals are in terms of the most important items for us to be working on. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I think that there's so much work to be done at this point.
Well, that's a good point, and it seems to me the next meeting, first of all, this is something for us to think about, but the next meeting will be after the Commission on the Status of Women, and what I will do is make sure that some of the streaming lectures and discussions will be available before the 18th, and maybe we can really try to plan a more robust future for Wilf Burlington here.
I think it's important. I think it's absolutely critical at this point, because there's so much work that needs to be done. And certainly I have my own agenda items.
Well, part of our problem here is, first of all, abortion is free, is not forbidden.
It's
And
legal.
Our three guys, our two guys and our woman are correct on a lot of the issues. I mean, I get so many things, call your senators to do this and that. And when I look at the issues, I see that they're on the right side. So that's kind of frustrating for us, isn't
Well,
it?
it could be
Oh, no.
spreading, or you could send them a thank you note.
Yeah.
I've been doing that. Yeah.
And we could
Because-
also be looking at what's going on inside the state,
Yes,
politics
I think-
in Montpelier.
So my feeling is that we're going to have to get really strong, again, within our states, within our localities. And the powers, again, going to have to eventually, to overturn all this, rise from state initiative. Yeah. And of course, with climate, it's absolutely devastating, especially with services we actually depend on now. So,
And our governor is not that great on climate, right?
oh, he's terrible.
Yeah.
No.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be critical, but it's appropriate in this instance.
He's
No,
wanting to remake education too this year.
yes,
Yeah,
but we're
that's
talking about infrastructure like sewage treatment plants, like, water supplies. We're talking about our basic survival at this point. From my perspective as a environmentalist, climate change, public worse. And then, of course, the other thing, just there's so many practical things. So having us just make lists of things that may be affected by I haven't quite selected my word to to refer to what's going on in Washington, but we're going to need to be really proactive, and we're going to have to be, as a state, much more dependent on ourselves and our own initiatives, and our own strengths. And what can we as Wilf people add to that? And let's identify the issues that scare each one of us, because they're pretty scary as far as I'm concerned.
a very brilliant article was written by Ray Atchison, who is from a Wilf person from Reaching Critical Will and is actually on the nuclear issue. And she specifies exactly how this is a coup. And she calls it a coup. So I will forward her email. I think it's from Common Dreams or something to everyone. Very interesting, very thorough article.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a coup. Definitely a coup. Yeah. But can you imagine the richest man in the world wants to, he and his people have already taken everything out of Africa. And so, well, let's just come over to this other big country and clean that one out.
Yeah, you may remember, those of you who went to the gathering last summer, and I was in a very heated debate with our dear Christina Borgeson, who passed away like a couple of months afterwards. But yeah, and what I was saying is, look, I know about imperialism. I'm against imperialism, when fascism comes to this country, it's more serious. You're going
Oh, it is. It's
it's with us
fascist
now.
imperialism.
With us now. You know, any people who thought, oh, it's all fascist. No. Partly, well, they can play with domestic reforms, the boys on top, play with domestic reforms and allow certain amounts of freedom. You don't mess with the empire, though. When you go abroad, you don't mess with the empire. That's why there's mutual agreement on what's going to happen to Gaza, quite frankly. Massive development plans, developing an energy corridor up the coast, wipe out that. Biden stood by and let it happen. So that's where their plans align. But domestically, when you got fascism here, it's different, and we're all feeling it now.
We are, as are people in other countries. A lot of my colleagues in Germany are really afraid right now.
Right.
Shaking
right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is wild ass serious.
Yeah.
Big time serious. And I really feel that we should be having a role, and we should be identifying those things that each of us might be concerned with, and then honing in on discussing them, and then honing in on ways that we feel that as Wilpf members and Wilpf as an organization can be effective in preventing harm and returning us to some level of decency.
Well, there's going to be an election in Burlington coming up, and several women are running as progressives for seats. And if that were to happen, then the mayor might have a majority on the city council, and it's possible that issues could come forward that have always been shunted aside. So I'm hopeful for something happening here.
May I ask a question, Robin? You talked about the gathering in New York, and you mentioned live streaming. Are you going to be sending out links to those live streams, or is there a place that we can find those?
Yeah, well, the Commission on the Status of Women, I mean, I think their website already is starting to show some of what's going to be presented, but definitely I will keep a tab on that and make sure that the talks get forwarded to you all. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I think my co-person here is saying he has to go. So anyway, thank you, everyone. This was very, very good, very spirited, and I did record it, and I'm going to have to unrecord it and send it on to Lydia, who really wanted to hear Rickey's talk. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Bye.
All of you. Bye.
Thank you, Robin. Good to see you.